When a show nails its voice cast as much as Adventure Time does, and has as many characters as Adventure Time has, the idea of recasting everybody for a live-action version seems like a Herculean task, because it is. Luckily for any casting agencies, we here at Channel Frederator have for weeks been agonizing over who would be Hollywood's best and brightest to take on this beloved cast of characters, just in case. I'm Kirsten, and today we're going to go over who would be in our dream cast for a live-action Adventure Time. Let's go! John Boyega as Finn. Let me make this clear. Digging through Hollywood to find an appropriate Finn was torturous. Who can simultaneously bring heart and humor, bravery, and those subtle yet profound feelings of inner conflict? Finn is a complex character who wears many hats. Well, he wears one hat, but in a metaphorical sense, he wears many. So, proper casting demands a lot. Then someone, as a joke, suggested John Boyega because he plays Finn in The Force Awakens. But it was as if a ray of sunshine poked in through my window, where I'd been zombified after the 10th time Googling best endearingly awkward actors under 25. After all, it is kind of a thing for people in their 20s to play teenagers. John Boyega is perfect. The 24-year-old can be funny and genuinely heroic at the same time. He can bring plenty of heart to his character and show several layers of inner conflict while still making the character lovable. And we know he can carry a film as a lead. Plus, he probably already responds to Finn. As far as I'm concerned, Boyega's the best fit in Hollywood. Donald Glover as Jake. Jake's not quite as age-constrictive as Finn. It's anyone's guess how old Jake is in dog years, especially considering his half-rainicorn children are all grown up. You need someone who's lovable and who's able to bring that brotherly camaraderie. Jake's emotions aren't quite as subtle as Finn's. When Jake is happy, which is most of the time, he is really happy. And when he's sad, he's really sad. So you need someone who thrives in the comedy of those exaggerated emotions without making them seem over the top. Donald Glover is most known for his role as Troy in Community, where he captured each and every one of our hearts. Like Jake, Troy is fun-loving, goofy, and rather childish in nature. Glover's expressions of surprise and glee make him incredibly fun to watch and instantly lovable. Troy's childish nature is often exaggerated, but Glover totally revels in it. A perfect Jakeian quality. Nikki Yang as BMO. Let's face it, Nikki Yang is BMO. When she plays, say, Candy on Gravity Falls, the voice obviously belongs to a female with a Korean accent, but somehow, on BMO, that same voice becomes harder to define. The tone becomes more androgynous and the accent somehow vaguer. Taking away the original voice actress for BMO will result in more vertigo than any other Adventure Time character. Without that voice, BMO just isn't BMO anymore. He/she/it is just another robot. So you could stay right where you are, Nikki Yang. BMO would be computer animated anyway. If you tried to have BMO as an animatronic or a costume, it would feel less like an endearing Game Boy and more of something from Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared. Anne Hathaway as Princess Bubblegum. Between her roles as the White Queen in Alice in Wonderland and Mia Thermopolis in The Princess Diaries, Anne Hathaway kinda has the eccentric royalty thing down. Furthermore, she's shown herself to have some serious acting chops, particularly as the tragic figure Fantine in Les Miserables. Sure, Bubblegum won't require that level of serious drama, and Marceline's the one that's the singer, but Hathaway has proven she can dive into the essence of a character, which is the kind of attention Bubblegum needs. She's a serious character, an old soul in a young body who cares about her subject, but who's also somewhat totalitarian and who sometimes loses herself in her vast intellect. We think capturing all this, while still making the character approachable and likable, would be cake for someone like Hathaway. Kristen Stewart as Marceline. Before you revolt, I swear to God that the painful experience known as the Twilight series never even entered my brain until after I decided Kristen Stewart would be a near-perfect Marceline. Although I guess some semblance of vampire experience probably helps. I chose Stewart because of movies like Adventureland, where she seems to exude the same kind of detached coolness that Marceline does, while still leaving plenty of room for character development via past trauma. But the real selling point for me was the fact that she played freaking Joan Jett in the film The Runaways, and if she could sell a seminal guitar punk rocker, she could sell Marceline. Crispin Glover as the Ice King. Most people know Crispin Glover as George McFly from the cult classic Back to the Future. But if you know anything more about Crispin Glover, you know he's a pretty weird dude who has made several confusing and off-the-wall public appearances, most famously on the David Letterman show in the 80s. Many people debate if he's eccentric or just flat-out bonkers. Sounds familiar, right? All things considered, Crispin Glover is a great actor who's able to bring an edge to the underdogs that no one else can bring. Sure, the Ice King starts the series as a bad guy, but over time he's become a tragic character, out of his mind and often annoying, yet lovable. Even looking into his work in Back to the Future, you could see how Glover would be able to milk the Ice King for every last drop of weirdness while still making the character funny and sympathetic. Jennifer Lawrence as Flame Princess. Alright, yeah, this was kind of a predictable choice, but Flame Princess is a troubled yet heroic figure, someone we've really seen mature throughout the series. She spent the first 14 years of her life imprisoned, and in a short span of time, she first interacted with the outside world and then grappled with trust and anger issues, overthrew her own father, and became the ruler of the Fire Kingdom, all while still a teenager. In the Hunger Games in particular, Jennifer Lawrence has shown that she's able to portray strong-willed women in leadership roles, but who are still grappling with personal issues. It would also be great to see her combine her action lead capabilities with the darker, more unstable characters she's played in films such as Silver Linings Playbook. Besides, we already know for a fact she looks like a badass when covered in flames. Melissa McCarthy as Lumpy Space Princess. Lumpy Space Princess is one of the most popular characters on Adventure Time. Her excessive vanity and strange Valley Girl personality induce laughter almost without fail. And so we believe comedy it lady Melissa McCarthy is a shoo-in. She's on a freaking roll right now. If there's anybody who can make LSP's brazen confidence absolutely hilarious, it's McCarthy. We absolutely cannot wait to hear her ask the citizens of Ooo if they want her lumps. Gilbert Gottfried as the Earl of Lemongrab. Lemongrab's voice is his standout trait, thanks to the vocal genius of Justin Roiland. If I had a dime for every time I've been in a room with a chorus of people trying their best to imitate Lemongrab's unacceptable, I'd have a nice little nest egg. So for a live-action Lemongrab, you need someone whose voice, well, puts you a little on edge. Fortunately, Gilbert Gottfried has forged an entire career out of having a rather absurd voice. You probably know him best as Iago from Aladdin, but he's been in several films and comedy specials as well. Gottfried would be excellent at playing the buzzkill screaming at all our protagonists. Malcolm McDowell as the Lich. The Lich is no small role to cast. He's in the running for most horrifying villain conceived in the last 10 years. I mean, he's a freaking skeleton created by atomic waste who wants the death of all life. And to boot, McDowell helped define new boundaries of villainous characters with his brilliant performance in A Clockwork Orange back in 1971. To this day, McDowell is so good at being bad that he played the devil a couple years ago. So we think as the Lich, he could give a new generation of children nightmares. Tim Heidecker as the King of Ooo. As part of the surrealistic comedy duo Tim and Eric, Tim Heidecker has built his entire career on saying the absolute weirdest shiz as if it was an obvious truth, and then finding the most mileage out of that material as he can. Tim Heidecker could stand on a soapbox and tell you the sky was made of turds, make it funny, and then find the weirdest logic possible to back up his claim. The King of Ooo needs someone to deliver his straight-out fibs with suave confidence, and all this makes Heidecker tailor-made for Koo, Oo's greatest and most eccentric con man. Keegan-Michael Key as Magic Man. For Magic Man, you need someone who can bring a confident, manic energy. Somebody who can be hilarious while playing a guy who's a total jerk just for the fun of it. Keegan-Michael Key, one half of Key and Peele, would therefore make a delightful Magic Man. Particularly as Obama's anger translator, Key has showed that he can get wound up in all the right ways. In plenty of other roles on Key and Peele, he was able to deliver the most absurd situations as if they were totally normal, which would definitely be helpful as a sociopathic wizard from Mars. Will Arnett as Martin. Will Arnett is brilliant at playing the biggest jerk in any given series and making you love him for it. From Job on Arrested Development to BoJack Horseman, Martin is, by all evidence, a jerk. He manipulates other people and runs away from any kind of responsibility he may have towards his son, Finn. In other words, he's a classic Will Arnett character. There's basically 1,000 more characters in Adventure Time, so here's a few more honorable mentions we've enjoyed thinking about. Peter Dinklage as Peppermint Butler, Zach Galifianakis as Cinnamon Bun, Samuel L. Jackson as Gunther Orgelorg, because, admit it, that would be amazing, Betty White as Tree Trunks, Danny DeVito as Flambeau, and, for the record, we want to keep Kumail Nanjiani as Prismo. What other characters can you think of that you'd like to cast? Do you disagree with any of our choices? Tell us in the comments below, and check out the live-action casting jobs we did on Steven Universe and Gravity Falls. Remember, Frederator loves you.